Funny story, I was 41 years old when I found out that...
Hi, welcome to Lilies and Tomatoes, your go-to place for simple and practical tips and tricks on how to start a garden all the way through how to use what you grow. This is from my live class that I teach on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays on Facebook. If you'd like to attend the live class or ask me a question, check out the link in the description.
Hello. Welcome back to my basement workshop. Today I am going to be discussing 3 methods of seed germination. So I will show you an example of each one, we'll start some seeds, and then I will give you an update on something that we started 2 weeks ago. If we have not met yet, my name is Quincey Adams, and I want to help you grow some of your own food in a small space on a budget. Let's get started. Okay, so first, the update, because this is I'm really excited about this. The peas, these were mostly grocery store peas with a couple of beans mixed in. So I'll show you, these grew faster than I was expecting. Some of them are very tall already, and there's some that are germinating a little bit more slowly. And then a couple of them, these right here are the beans. They still have the little beans attached to them. You guys see that? Right here. So these are actually beans that I mixed in because I had been soaking them overnight, and the rest of these are peas. So what I will do, I'm gonna show you guys one way to enjoy these. So these are pea shoots, not pea sprouts. Sprouts, generally, if you're doing microgreens or sprouting things, you're gonna just sprout it. It's gonna come out into like a tiny seedling and you're gonna eat it within a couple of days. Normally, if you're growing something for shoots, you're gonna let it go for, I guess, 2 to 4 weeks. And then you're gonna take the whole top off the plant like this. Doesn't wanna come off. And then you're gonna be eating something that's 4 to 6 inches tall, like this. And these taste like peas. So I'm going to saute these. I'm really excited about these pea sprouts. So I will move this now. I'm limited on space, but 2 weeks, grocery store peas. Just regular dried peas bought at the grocery store, and they've grown, some of them as much as 6 inches in 2 weeks, and some of them are still sprouting. Peas. Okay, now for the planting methods. First, let's talk about the paper towel method, because I did that yesterday. I had an apple and I was like about to throw away the core, and I was like, hey, I wonder if I can sprout some of these seeds and grow them into a tree, because someone tagged me in a post about that, and I've never wanted to grow an apple tree from seed, but I thought I'd check it out and see how it would work out, just because if you guys start a plant or a tree from seeds, it can take up to 7 years before you get any fruit, and I'm just not patient enough to wait 7 years. So I would gladly pay more money, not a whole lot more money, but like $20 to $30 to buy a 2-year-old tree from a nursery and only wait like a year or 2 for a fruit. These are apple seeds. What I did is I just took the seeds, I didn't wash them up or anything. I just put them in a paper towel. I folded it in half. I wet the paper towel, and then I put them in this bag, and I labeled the bag grocery apple seeds, because anything that I sprout from seeds from something that I bought at the grocery store, I always label it grocery. So that way, when it grows, I'm not expecting it to resemble any specific variety. I know that it could be anything, because when you are growing something from groceries, it could be a hybrid. It's not necessarily going to be true to the parent, so you're not always going to get something true to type. But what these seeds, you can see, I guess it's hard to see, but these tiny seeds have been soaking for, I think, about 36 hours, and I do see a little root tail on a couple of them. So that looks promising, particularly this one. This one right here, root tail. There you go. Okay. So I'm gonna plant some of these in a peat pot. These are biodegradable, and when you buy them, you either use a soilless mix or soil in them. You plant your seeds in them. These are for seedlings. You're gonna get a little bit bigger before you plant them out, and then you're gonna plant the whole pot. And I will show an example of what that looks like as they start to grow. So with my potatoes that I planted at the seed potatoes I planted at the beginning of the month, I put them in peat pots like this. With my soilless mixture, I put them at the bottom so that the roots could grow through the bottom, and then they could grow up through the mixture until I was ready to put them outside. And this is one of those right here. One of those potatoes. This is an all blue potato. And as you can see, the roots are starting to grow through the bottom. Hold on. Let me point them out to you right here. Roots growing through the bottom of the pot. There's nothing growing through the top right now. I just re-watered these. I like to put them in foil trays. I put water in the bottom of the tray and I let it wick up through the whole peat pot. And that's how I water those. So I just watered those, and then I thought, oh, I should show you guys because the roots are starting to show through on several of them. And I also want to show you a little trick with peat pots. When you get them, they usually come in stacks, big stacks, and they are sometimes hard to get apart. And what I do is I just I hold the bottom firm, but not like Hulk smash. And then I pull the one at the top and I just gently turn it around and give a quick yank. And then they come apart easily. If you squeeze them too hard, you're gonna crush the whole stack. So just gently twist and pull, twist and pull, twist and pull. This takes a little bit of patience, but it's worth it when you see the roots growing through the bottom of your little peat pots. Doo-doo. Okay, I've got potting soil with perlite in this bucket on the floor. So I'm getting some in the bucket, some in my little peat pot. There's my mix. There's actually a sand in here too. This is a mix that I mixed up for potting my citrus trees. So I'm just taking one of these little apple seeds and I'm putting it in the soil and I'm pushing it down a little bit and I'm covering it over. And I'm going to do that with 3 more of these. Actually, let's just do 1 more and I'll show you another method. So, tiny seed in the dirt. I'm going to push it down a little bit and cover it over. Seeds don't need to be planted that deep. The depth should be determined by the size of the seed. So little seeds get planted shallowly or just sprinkled on top. Bigger seeds get pushed down further. Now let's go into another method. I'm going to show you guys a soak method just in case you missed it before, because I normally soak beans and corn. So these are beans that I'm going to be growing this year. This is scarlet runner bean. This is a red noodle bean. I'll tell you guys a funny story about that in a second. This is a royal burgundy bean. And then this is a midnight black turtle bean. And that has numbers on it because that's seeds left over from last year that I planted. So, funny story, I was 41 years old when I found out that noodle beans, yard-long beans, were a thing. When I was younger, growing up, I never liked to eat Chinese food. I didn't like Chinese food until I moved to Hawaii and started eating it out there. And what I always ordered was long bean chicken. That's what they called it out in Hawaii. That's what I still call it. I always thought the long beans were green beans. I didn't know that they were actually yard-long beans, not green beans. That's a totally different thing. And they look the same and they grow as well. They look longer and they grow similarly, but you have to cook them differently. I did not know that. So, yard-long beans. I've got some cups here. These are plastic cups. So, what I'm going to be doing this year, because I want to maximize my harvest, is to stagger starting some of my vegetables, because I don't want them to all be ready at the same time. So that way I can eat them and then process the excess a little at a time, instead of having like a huge amount of beans that I can't fit all in my freezer. So these are the red noodle beans, and I've got 2, 4, about 10. This is what they look like. Little red beans. And they're going in a cup. And I'm just going to fill this with water. Real quick. Just regular tap water, cold water. These will get planted tomorrow. So that's my noodle beans. And I'll repeat the process for the rest of the days. And I see that there's some comments, so let me just check real quick if there's any questions. You can see little retails. Yay! Can I up pot the entire peat pot into the larger pot when it's time? Yes, that's the great thing about peat pots. The whole thing goes into your container when you're ready to up pot it. So, hold on a second. Say that I wanted to up pot this potato into this pot. I would put enough dirt in the bottom so that this could sit at the level that I want it to sit in, and then the whole thing goes in. And then you put dirt around it. Because, I mean, the roots are growing through. That's the whole point. I also like to buy them, if you're buying starts and they come in peat pots, as long as the peat pot's not too moldy, I'd like to buy peat pots. Definitely, in order to keep them from getting moldy, you want to be very careful how often you water them, and don't let them sit in water. Just water them enough, let the water wick up, let them dry out, and just be careful with that. And if you see a little bit of mold, throw some peroxide in the water, because peroxide is magical for gardening. 1 second. And the last thing, actually 2 more things. I've got some cucumbers here. I'm going to plant these traditionally. So these are going to go into smaller peat pots. These actually come, it'll be side by side like this, and there'll be a 5-pack. So there's 5 on each one of these. And so you'll get a pack of 50 a lot of times. That's how I bought these. I'm leaving these partially, like I broke them in half, but I'm leaving them partially connected so that they won't all fall over in the foil tray. So they sit up nicely, and I will break them apart and plant the whole peat pot when I'm ready to plant them. So I'm just gonna fill up one right now so you guys can see how that looks. And just in general, like I plant for things that are a reasonable size, seed-wise, I plant in dry dirt. But if the seeds are tiny, I put the dirt in the container first. I wet the dirt. I sprinkle the seeds on top. I sprinkle a little dirt on top if they need it. But if the seeds are tiny, I don't want them to fall all over the place. When I'm watering, I don't want them to get dislodged. So I pre-moisten the soil so the seeds don't end up down the sides or out of the little containers. So I'm gonna use this as a scoop. And I'm filling up this peat tray with dirt from my bucket. And now it looks like this. This is just my potting mix plus perlite and a little bit of sand. And the cucumbers that I'm growing this year, I will show you what I'm growing. I'm growing a lunchbox hybrid cucumber, and I grew these last year. You can see there's numbers on the back. That's when I started them. I'm growing a straight 8 cucumber. a muncher cucumber, Ashley cucumber, and Mexican sour gherkins. So these are cucamelons. Most of the cucumbers that I'm growing are about, when they're fully mature, 8 inches or smaller, because I want to be able to make a lot of pickles. I love pickles. You guys know I like pickles because I always have pickle jars, but I want to be able to make some of my own. So I will be growing these specifically for pickles, and mostly small varieties of cucumbers, so that some of them can be eaten fresh and then other ones can be eaten as pickles. So I'm going to plant some of these, excuse me, Mexican gherkins. These have tiny seeds. Just another little quirk of mine. A lot of people will overplant. Sometimes they like go too heavy on the overplanting with seeds. These are super small. I'm not sure if you can see those. So they look like bigger cucumber seeds. They're just tiny because they're tiny cucumbers. But if their seeds are from a reputable company and they're fresh, then I generally only plant one seed because the germination rates are really high for the seeds. So I just put one in each seed cell. And then I just fold over the top of my seed packs after I've opened them so they don't all fall out. And I write the date on the back that I grew them. Just as like a note to self, I have not reached the level of togetherness when I keep a journal and I know everything and everything's labeled perfectly. We're not there yet, but we're working on it. So we're gonna put you on there. And then I will sprinkle a little bit more dirt on top and water those in. So those seeds were a little bit smaller than I was expecting. Put some water. And a lot of times when I'm growing in peat pots, what I do is I label the outside of this container, so it'll usually have little tape labels down the side or across the front. A nice thing about peat pots is you can write on them in advance, like I did with this one. Where is it? Yeah, see how it says all blue on it? Because there's an all blue potato in here. But I wasn't that organized just now, so you do what you can. Let me just check real quick if there's any other questions. Okay, no other questions at this time. So I'm going to show you one more method that involves my favorite handy dandy pickle jars. This is called the Petri dish method. So you're just going to take a container. It can be plastic, it can be smaller, but because I have these jars, I use these jars. And I'm doing this for all of my bigger seeds because I want to see them germinate before I allocate space to planting them. So this is another way so you can just like make sure you're getting good germination with your seeds. You can do this as opposed to the paper towel method. The paper towel method gets a little bit cumbersome if you've got big hands. If you've got little hands like me, it doesn't matter. But also, it's just easier. You can just look in here without opening the whole thing up. Because with the paper towel method, you start opening that thing up all the time, you're going to end up getting mold in there just from like your hands and just the air. So you don't want to be opening it all the time. And with this method, you can see through this. So I like doing it with a glass jar with a lid. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your container, you're gonna put a paper towel in it in the bottom, and I'm going to use one of my handy dandy skewers to poke this in here because I do not want to get my hand stuck in a jar live on Facebook. That would be embarrassing. I'm going to put a little bit of water in here. It doesn't have to be a lot. You don't want it to be a lot. Actually, you don't want excess water in here, but you want the whole paper towel to be wet. So now that I've poured water in here, I'm going to push it down so that it is across the bottom. And I'm going to be planting some of my bigger seeds in here. So I've got some cool stuff. This is a Cape May beach plum. These actually, I bought them last year and they needed to be cold stratified. So I put them in the freezer and then I forgot all about them. So I got these last year, put them in the freezer and forgot them. Hot mess gardener. You like, it doesn't matter if you're not organized or perfect, you can still grow food. But what I want to put in here to show you guys, because I think that's the coolest of them all, I'll show you guys that last. I've got some Sunspot Dwarf sunflowers. And then I also have some Nepal sunflowers that I got from my friend Cindy. So these will be growing. These will get the jar treatment. I've got my jars all set up, but I don't want you guys to wait for me to do that slowly. But something really cool that I'm growing this year that I'm really excited about is a dwarf moringa. If you guys don't know what moringa is, it is a tree that is normally grows in tropical areas, and it's super nutritious, and they actually use this to fight malnutrition in African countries. So you can get the seeds on Amazon. They're like these really cool big pods. The whole plant is edible or useful for medicinal properties, but they say only the leaves are safe to eat every day. And I found out about moringa when I was Googling different highly nutritious foods that I could grow in my garden. So these are not hardy to my zone, but I'm going to add a tiny bit more water to this. But I can grow it as an annual. So this is something that I will grow and bring in the house over winter. And put the lid on. So this is what it looks like. These actually, all of my seeds that I'm starting are gonna go into my upper greenhouse. It's a little bit warmer in there. It gets more sun. When you're germinating seeds, you don't need sunlight right away, but once they come up, they need to get sunlight. So with the our grocery store peas, I actually left them down here covered because I didn't realize they had sprouted already. And when they first sprouted and I realized it, they were yellow because they didn't have any light. They are growing fine with just light in the house. I have them sitting on my dining room table. They reach towards the deck, but they're not anywhere close to the light on that, and it doesn't matter. They're still doing fine. So you don't need anything special grow light wise for to sprout grocery store peas and eat the pea shoots. But for if you're going to grow other things and want them to get bigger, then you do want to get grow lights, and then you can check out my other video on grow lights for some recommendations. But all of these things, once they're all completely labeled and potted and put in their respective containers, will be going into my greenhouse. tomorrow morning because it's dark. Outside, I don't like to open it up at night because I want to keep as much heat in there as possible overnight. So let me check one last time to see if there's any other questions. Let's see. So you leave them in the jar until they have a root tail, or do you have them more growth than that? These in the jar in the Petri dish method, you can let them go a little bit longer than just the root tail popping out. You can like get like a full on like a good like half inch or an inch long sprout, but I just want to make sure that they're all germinating before I pot them up. But seed tail is really all that's necessary. That's my goal. So I want them to these ones germinate faster so I can get them going faster, because even though it's still cold-ish right now outside, it's warm enough for these types of things. Well, some of these things to go outside. Overnight temperatures in my extended forecast are not below 40. So for me, because I am more risk tolerant, that is a point when I would start putting stuff outside. But I'm behind on my gardening this year, so I don't have stuff ready to go outside. But like these little containers, I'm putting the cucumbers in these little containers because they can go outside very soon. Cucumbers and beans do very well direct sown, but I want to maximize my harvest this year. So that means I'll be starting seeds, some of them on a monthly basis and some of them like every 3 months, just so like as the plant starts to struggle, I can pull the old one out and put a new one in without losing time for waiting for it to germinate in place outside, because last year I had issues with that. Trying to germinate seeds outside, like out in the environment once it got hot, like the seeds took a lot of time to germinate. So I want to like cut out that cycle, make it go faster, but also maximize my harvest, if that makes sense. Any other questions? What will you be potting them into? Grow big or container? The cucumbers will be going into earth boxes. I have 3 earth boxes set at the base of the posts that hold up my deck, and I have trellising fabric that goes all the way up to the underside of the deck, and it's held on with zip ties across the top. So I can do 4 cucumbers or melons in a earth box. So those will be going in the earth boxes, and those will be pointing up. And the beans and other melons that I'll be planting, most of those will be going in fabric pots. So I've got the 4 2x2s that are outside already. Those need to go up onto rollers. And then I've got the 15-gallon bags that I just got. Those will also be going out. And the moringa, once this germinates, I'm probably gonna have to get something new for them, because they have a really long taproot, and you're not supposed to, once you pop them up like the first time, you're supposed to leave them in the same container for a year while their taproot develops. So these are a little bit of a prima donna, and I'm not sure yet when I'm going to put those in. So I was kind of thinking about like a 3-gallon nursery pot, because that's pretty deep. And then the next year they will get up potted into, probably get some more tree appropriate fabric bags. So the fabric bags that I have are generally for like general purpose. They do make them ones that are like taller. So instead of it being 7 gallons and being wide, it'll be 7 gallons and really tall. And then that will accommodate the root system of the tree. And these are going to grow into trees. And then I will probably do 3 or 4 into one big fabric container. So then I can continuously harvest the leaves, dry the leaves into powder if I want to for extras, and then keep it inside during the winter time. And yeah, that's pretty much where things will be going. Most things of like, the beans will be going all over the place, and I will probably be trying a partial 3 sisters with some of the beans and growing them up the corn, but I have not started yet. And then the flowers will be everywhere, because you need to have a lot of pollinators. You need to have a lot of flowers to bring in pollinators. If you wait until you plant your vegetables and then they start to flower, sometimes you don't get good germination because the pollinators have not been coming to your yard already. So that's just one little trick to get better yield on your vegetables. Any other questions? Okay, no other questions. And then I will leave you guys with one question to think about and let me know so I can better help you. What confuses you the most about starting a garden? So just think about that. What's confusing? I'm trying to make sure that I hit all of the beginner-friendly stuff and incorporate as much stuff from around my house as possible, so you guys don't have to go out and buy anything. You can do this on the cheap. You just have to be willing to sacrifice some containers. So question again is, what confuses you the most about starting a garden? And if there are no other questions, I'm going to let you guys go for tonight. Tomorrow we will talk about where to buy seeds. I don't know if you've noticed on the packages, I've got seeds from all over the place. Some of them I buy in big box stores. A lot of them I buy online. I'm always looking for good places to find seeds because I like to grow stuff that's unusual. I don't like growing grocery store varieties of anything, unless it came from kitchen scraps, and then I'm done with that because I didn't pay for those. So I will see you guys tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We will be talking about where you buy seeds, and think about what confuses you the most about starting a garden, and send me your answers or post your answers, and I will take a look at it and get back to you guys. Have a good night. Stay safe. Stay home. Bye.